In this video, we're going to talk about anxiety, anxious feelings, and where they come from. And once we understand where they come from and how they work inside us, it gives us a really good direction towards being able to beat the anxiety, get rid of the anxiety so you can live a calmer and much more improved life. We talk about feeling comfortable inside our skin. Well, our skin is a really important organ of the body. Not only does it keep all the blood and all the water and all the organs in place, it also keeps all the emotions in and the feelings in. Hence we have the expression feeling comfortable inside your skin. And when I say that to my clients I see in either groups or one-to-one sessions, you can see them all doing this. They said, yeah, I want to feel comfortable inside my skin. So sometimes when we talk about anxiety, we talk about depression, we talk about all these horrible feelings that are trapped inside us, it's like they can't leave, they can't get out of your skin. I presently are working with a client who has eczema on his skin really badly, and he's seen every single specialist consultant that he can get his hands on, and it's still there. And he's seen me now for 2 sessions, and what's amazing, just by removing all the anxious feelings, all those negative, all those horrible charged feelings, that zzz that you get the whole time, that almost the coming together of 2 wires and just making these sparks and friction inside the body, it's actually becoming less red. His eczema is beginning to just settle down. He says he's not woken up at night in such pain. And that's because we're removing all those horrible feelings and negative emotions that have been stuck inside his skin and trying to get out. So by taking them out, we can really help him. But let's talk about anxiety a little bit more. Anxiety comes from way, way back in time. It wasn't invented in the 19th or 20th century. Let's go back to old Stone Age man. Stone Age man is got 3 main things in his life to help him survive. Number 1, find food. Pretty obvious, that one. Number 2, don't become food. And number 3, find shelter. Everything else in life goes further down the line. Love, relationships, that comes further down the line, because if you can't find food or you can't find shelter or you become someone else's or something else's food, you're then not going to be able to love or have a relationship. So these are the top 3 ways of surviving. So let's take them in order. Number 1, find food. Obviously, a caveman or a Stone Age man used to charge up and down chasing buffaloes or collecting berries. And that was the way that they had to survive. They didn't have supermarkets or corner shops because they weren't invented for several thousand years later. So they had to actually go out and grow or collect their food themselves. Secondly, don't become food. Now, if a caveman was to see a lovely tree of apples or some berries on a bush, and they go, oh, excellent, and they walk straight in there, and T-Rex was round the corner with, feeling a bit hungry himself, or a saber-toothed tiger, or whatever happened to be around at the time, he would get eaten. So he started then learning by trial and error. This is what evolution's all about. The weakest will not survive. Only the strongest will survive, so to speak. As they go through, they would start learning how to protect themselves, how not to become food. And not becoming food is really, really important. And the third, of course, is find shelter. So shelter is going to keep them dry, it's going to keep them warm, but it's also just going to keep them safe. If you take a bear in the winter, a bear will go and hibernate in a cave because it's protected. If it was out underneath some bushes, something else could come out and eat it. And the chances are that another animal will not enter the cave to cause the bear a problem. And let's face it, bears are pretty big anyway. So let's take these in turn. First of all, you have the find food. You need food to survive, so the person goes out there and they're collecting their food. What happens though with number 2? Don't become food. So the person is looking at the tree with the apples, he's looking at the bush, he's looking at the injured animal out there which he would like to slaughter and eat. whatever it happens to be. But he's constantly aware of not becoming food because there are other predators out there. It's almost as if he's got that X-ray, that radar looking out for danger. And this is how we work in our everyday lives. We're looking out for danger. And when you do that, your senses become heightened, your eyes dilate, so you can take in more information about what's going on around. They are really in peripheral vision. Their vision is so huge that they can see any tiny movement that goes around them. Their ears, their hearing becomes so much more intense because they want to hear a rustle of a leaf or a twig breaking, because that could be something's about to charge them. And we still have the same things today. And finding shelter, that's a pretty obvious one. We need to find somewhere just to shelter, whether it's for 2 minutes or whether it's for 20 years. So if it's raining, you may look for a shelter and you go and stand in the bus shelter. If that's a modern day convenience, they didn't have those in the old days, so it was caves or somewhere like that. So if we look at the first two, find food and not become food. Find food, when people get stressed, they resort often to number one and they comfort eat. So let's look at number two. Don't become food. And how does that really affect us today? Well, when danger is around, you have a choice, fight or flight. If the danger is something small, you could fight it. So there's a caveman and a small dinosaur comes along that he's bigger than, and he can then fight it and survive. The second way is flight, as in run, because you've got to run that much faster than a dinosaur to survive. That much slower, the dinosaur's going to catch you and eat you. So when you're looking at what's happening in your life, you have fight or flight. But there's a third one. Flight, fight or freeze. And many people would just go into this almost catatonic state of freezing, like a bunny in headlights, and they don't know what to do. And suddenly everything becomes overwhelming. And that can cause internal friction, internal anxiety. It can become so overwhelming that the person then trips into a panic attack. And if this happens too often, the mind will then do something to protect you. And this is a modern day problem which wasn't around for Stone Age people, because Stone Age people, there weren't corner stores or anything like that. They had to find food. So the modern day version of what happens when you go into overwhelm or that freeze moment is your mind will take control and start cutting off the various circuits. Like there's too much information coming from here, there's too much information coming from here, and you get this zzz, like a short circuit in the brain, a short circuit in the mind. And your amygdala, that part of you that's looking out for problems, is going absolutely mad, just saying, look out, 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 look out. And like an electrical circuit, if you start cutting off the various streams of information coming in, the circuit boards are going to calm down. So your mind will just say, right, that's too much, I'll take off that one. That's too much, I'll cut off that. That's too much, I'll cut off that. That's too much, I'll cut off that. And what happens over a period of time is that your mind is protecting you. It's cutting off so much information coming in that you become quite dull. And the underside of the duvet is the best place to be because you feel more protected. If you come out from underneath the duvet, there's too much going on. And that's what depression is, where the mind takes off too much information. So this is a way of understanding what's going on in your mind. In future videos, I'll do more demonstrations on the amygdala and why it does what it's doing and how we can not fight it, but how we can agree with it and then help it. Rather than going and saying, amygdala, you're wrong, we can go in and we can just release, take away all the problems that the amygdala is holding on to. So the amygdala says, oh, there's something to worry about now, and relax. And as soon as it does that, we can then start reconnecting all those neural pathways to some of the problems that we were facing and realise actually there's nothing there. A client quite recently a very young client at 62 years old. She was suffering from depression for years. And I think I saw her for about 6 sessions in all over a 2-month period. And at the end of it, she said, Piers, I've been running away from this problem all my life. And thanks to you, I turned round to face it, and there was nothing there. And often we get anxious about things that no longer exist. You may remember from some of my previous videos where I talk about the mind model and how we distort, generalize and delete information. And by generalizing a lot of the feelings that are coming in as danger, we can get ourselves into a real pickle. So a really simple technique for you to do, just to calm yourself down, to start dealing with some of the problems and some of the feelings so you feel more comfortable inside your skin, is literally you stand up, you put your hands on your head like this, and you think of all the problems that you're carrying around in your head. And then I'd like you to visualize them with your eyes closed. And as you visualize them, you pick them up. And you've got a choice. You can either throw them away, but what I like to do is for people then to put them down in their stomach. Take a couple of deep breaths and then open your eyes. And by doing that, obviously not while driving or using any machinery, but you take the problems out from here and you put them down here in your stomach where they can be digested, all the goodness taken out, and the rest will be flushed away as either feces or urine. And I have had people saying, yeah, I had IBS for years, but as soon as I took everything out of my head and gave it to my stomach, my IBS sorted itself out. It's a really simple way of just taking all the problems, putting them here, because it clarifies and clears up your head. It clarifies all these problems are actually imaginary, and they go down here to be flushed away. And it gives you space in your mind then to deal with everyday life. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. There's a little bell there. And once a week, the bell will go bing in your inbox somewhere, and you'll get a notification that there's another video up. My name's Piers Day, and just by tuning in once a week for a short video, you can actually get to understand how the mind works and how we can make life better for you.